I'm at a place called Sandspit, a little children's play park, but if you walk through here you come to some mangroves. It's windy, so you may not hear my voice. Nice quiet spot. And the marina is just behind me. I'll say one thing about New Zealand. We're an hour or so north of Auckland. And the amount of buildings and housing that's going up, as Auckland ever creeps further north, means that throughout the working day, there's a lot of building going on. And the noise you can hear in the background is that I think they're dredging the channel for the marina, which is there. So I've come here just to talk about, or think about, Sun Tzu's The Art of War. Oh, lovely shot. If I'm not mistaken, I think that's a heron. Amazing things. Swamp, especially mangrove. There's a lot of them here in the Northland. Generally no nasties. There's no crocs here, unlike in Australia. Fairly benign. In fact, they're actually seen as being very invasive. Let's go and sit on that seat there. But this is the book. And as I go through this, what I'm interested in is, yes, it's military. So strategic offence. But is it just purely of interest to military historians or people who are interested in war and what it has to say? Is there anything here that could be taken out into the civilian world? And the pages are folded. It's not very long. I read it years ago and I can't remember what it says, and I'm not sure whether it will be something I would find enjoyable. But it is famous. It's beautifully made, this book. So let's see what it says. So hello, welcome, and nice to have you here. The book itself was never intended as a course on leadership. That has to be said straight away. So whereas I would like to look at this and think, oh, what can I take from this that may be of use for somebody who was in the corporate field or just about to embark on a role of management come leadership? What could you take from this? I think there's actually quite a lot. It was written some 2,500 years ago we say Sun Tzu, but that's not his name. His name was Sun Wu, or Sun Tzu. It's the old Romanization of the name, probably caught on 18th, 19th century. And as a book itself, there's no definitive text because it's ancient. This here will give some kind of translation, but it's not exactly potentially from the original text. It says here, it's impenetrable classical language, but yet today it's on the recommended reading list of the United States Marine Corps. And that's easy to understand because I would say 80% of this is not going to be appropriate to the way I'm looking at it. For instance, towards the end, Sun Tzu talks about how you should deploy your troops. So if you have a river, put them on the sunny side and facing east and all that kind of stuff, and how to use the terrain. That's not going to be any kind of modern leadership quality or relevance at all. But some is. But what you have to do is to almost extrapolate what's being said and put it in the modern corporate world, or any world, any place. It could be teaching, leadership. It doesn't matter. I say corporate, small businesses, church, whatever. And you take the word which they'll use as general and put it down as leader or business owner or something like that. So in this one here, planning, it says war has 5 decisive factors, and it goes into earth, heaven, commander, regulation. Not there, but it talks about moral compass. Well, that you can take out and say, yes, a moral compass. Should a leader, and I believe a leader should, but should a leader have a moral compass? In other words, be ethical? Well, yes. It doesn't mean that that is the case, but that is what they should have, some kind of moral compass, and a good moral compass. So as you can see, for those who don't like highlighting, I've butchered the text. The general must be possessed of wisdom, honesty, benevolence, and discipline. The leader must be possessed of wisdom, honesty, benevolence, and discipline. Well, that's just as appropriate now. Outside of the war, or the field of war, the theatre of war, the discipline of war. And as I said, the moral compass brings the people into accord with their ruler so that they will follow him. Well, obviously, there are people who will follow bad or unmoral, amoral leaders, but I think you understand what I'm trying to say. And there's a question here. Which ruler has a moral compass? Which general, and when it says general, I'm going forward now, we'll use the word leader. Which leader has ability? Where is leadership most effective? Whose leaders are best trained? And which leaders understand the use of reward? Again, that is perfectly appropriate to the modern world, the modern ideas of leadership. And just to be opaque here, obviously, I myself was in the military. I was in the Navy. And, you know, when you serve in any military force, you get to know leadership quite well. But I spent 8 years in the corporate world in London in the 90s in advertising and publishing. I was a teacher for 19 years and taught not just philosophy and ethics, but I also taught business studies and enterprise. So leadership is something that I've come across and taught in various forms, in depth. Probably why I like the text of The Art of War. So why did I mention that? It's just that hopefully I understand some of the concepts I'm going to be talking about, but I understand not everybody cares for leadership. But what is leadership, fun enough? Well, obviously, let's get this out of the way then. There's a difference between management, a manager, and a leader. So imagine somebody who runs a shop, but they don't own the shop, they run it. They're the manager of the shop. So they open up, they close, they do the till, the cash flow, they'll do the stock control, they'll probably do a roster and make sure people are doing, you know, cheers around the shop, such as cleaning and whatever. That's management, but that's not leadership. A leader is like the difference between tactics and strategy. A leader looks at where is a business going? What's its vision? What is it aimed to achieve? Where is it in the marketplace? It's different qualities to management, whereas a manager tends to tell, but a leader should show and get people to follow because they want to. And I've become interested not so much in the leadership that tends to be put out there now, but service leadership. So from my point of view, from my perspective, I believe a good leader is somebody who serves others. It's not can they trip somebody up, but can they lift people up and take them forward. So a good leader would look at anybody, the merest janitor, and say, how can we improve things? Where would you like to be? How can I help you? not ignoring them or thinking they're below them. So leadership is a topic I'm very interested in myself and have been for years now. But let's be honest, it's one of those subjects that people don't necessarily study or have any time for. I am aware of that. But let's carry on with the art of war. It says here, a good leader should retain those who heed advice, but dismiss those that do not. Bit harsh, but in other words, I wouldn't say you would sack somebody because they're not following you, the leader, but it's understanding that what you want is somebody who accepts and follows the leader because they're doing a good job. But there'll be people, however good the leader is, they don't want to know. Well, then why are they working for the business or whatever? And a good leader should act according to the situation and make use of external factors. A victorious leader plans for many eventualities before the battle. Okay, let's use that word and say the launch of a product or the launch of a building or a campaign. A victorious leader plans for many eventualities before the campaign. A defeated leader plans for only a few. So you've got a plan. You need to know as a leader, where are you going? Are you fulfilling the running of the business each day, but there's no thought to where you're going to be in a year's time and how you're going to get there and what eventualities may come and go? I mean, traditionally or classically, that's a SWOT. So in other words, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats. And leaders will look at what's the strength of the business, but what's the weakness, where are the opportunities, but what are the threats, external, internal. Interesting, I always taught that the strengths can be the threat because you can become complacent. Your weaknesses are your opportunities to improve and so on. We go on to waging war. I have heard of reckless haste. I have never seen wise delay. So it's knowing when to implement certain things. That's what a good leader should know. So again, you just read through something like this text. You may get something off the page. You may get quite a lot. A skillful leader must defeat the enemy without coming to battle. All right. Defeat is the wrong word. You want competition because it means that there is a need for your products or services. Or you want to have other people that don't work for you but are good leaders so that you can compare yourself to and learn from them and help and assist. Don't like the word defeat or battle. Thus, a skillful leader must best the competition without ever coming to blows with them. That makes more sense. The leader is the mainstay of the business. If her support is solid, the business will be strong. If her support is flawed, the business will be weak. And there are 3 ways in which a bad leader can bring around disaster. Ordering things or doing things, deciding, making decisions at the wrong time, confusing the workers by interfering, and disheartening those who work for the business by meddling. Now, isn't that a truism? I've known business owners, leaders so-called, who just can't stop imposing their will, their peevish will on others. And it's quite disheartening when people come in. And very rarely do they give compliments. It's always, oh, this needs to be done. Oh, can you do it that way? That is not a good leader. And then it talks about 5 keys to victory, or what would make a good leader. Knowing when to fight, or in other words, when to be competitive, when not to, what to do. Holding those in the business united in purpose. Careful preparation and planning. A skillful leader gives free rein. I need to read this one again. A skillful owner of a business will give free rein to those who are running it. So in other words, investors will let the people do what they need to do. And I've got interest in these 2 little comments here. Know yourself. So it's a bit like Socrates, the Delphic oracle. Know thyself and know your enemy, or know the competition. I'm looking back on some of the businesses I used to work for. Staggered me that those above didn't know who the competitors were. Who else is in this field in which we are endeavouring to do busyness? And they didn't know the products. Being prepared for all circumstances and so on. So I'm not saying this is an absolute must for any leader to think, oh, I've got to read this because this is the thing to read about good leadership. But there's so much in here that could help, and certainly just add to the overall skill set of anybody who wants to be a leader. You'll need to read around the subject a lot more, I think. But anyway, The Art of War, Sun Tzu. So as far as the military side of it, which I've not really talked about, it's very good. And because I've written 2 books on military history, it happens to be naval history. And I have a keen interest in war, the Second World War specifically, the wars occasioned by the French Revolution and so on, and the ancient conflicts. So something like that is a must, because it has influenced not so much the West. For centuries no one knew about it outside of China. But certainly in the last 200 or 300 years, probably from the rise of Clausewitz, who talked a lot about war and whatever, then this has become like a kind of must for those who want to elevate themselves into the higher ranks of military leadership and so on. So it is good that way. And it's just one of those books like this that's just pleasing to have on the shelf and so on. I've still got that there, that can come off. But anyway, The Art of War. And yeah, if you're interested in leadership and if you think there's any worth in studying it because of that, recommend it. Ta-ta for now.